And really, it was almost as though I was gaining as much knowledge as possible to become a mass killer. And I knew exactly how to dispose of a body in an acid bath, providing that they didn't have gallstones, because you see, they don't dissolve in acid. All very interesting stuff, isn't it? Not very refreshing, though. But the books we have in this business are refreshing to read. They help us to attain a more positive frame of mind and to believe that anything is possible. And what of the tapes? Well, basically, I didn't listen to any. And Pat knew this. And in the evenings, I'd take Nikki to bed, and the TV would be on when I left the room. And when I got back down to the lounge, a tape would be playing, and I would have to sit and listen. I had no alternative. I would never, ever have, I had enough respect for Pat not to turn that tape off. One of the things that I found difficult to cope with were the American accents. And I used to say to Pat, I don't like listening to the tapes, I don't like the American accents. And he said to me, I can't make you out. You'll sit and watch American soaps on the TV, and the accent doesn't bother you then. He said, you can accept that rubbish quite readily. But when you hear the same accent on a tape, which is going to teach you something positive and help you, he said, you moan. And he was right, of course. Back in those days, we only had American tapes to listen to. Now, of course, we have many successful people in this country on tape. But after listening to the tapes and getting into those tapes, I began to understand more about the business. And listening to people's stories gave me hope and encouragement. As we started to talk about the business, we started thinking of people who would get excited about developing an extra income. Our sponsor always encouraged us to get more information and to meet people who were already in the business. He encouraged us to go to a seminar some distance from home. It was inconvenient, and I went along reluctantly. The number of people there staggered me. I'd only thought of this business as I had seen it in our living room. Now I saw it differently, in a business-like environment. There were people of all ages and different nationalities, and I remember thinking, this business is for everyone. Several things surprised us, pleasantly surprised us. All the people were smiling and looking genuinely happy. We heard people teaching and relating their experiences with us. It was apparent that they believed in what they were doing, and it gave us a degree of belief in the business and in ourselves. We were very pleased we went, although, as I say, I went reluctantly. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and I had other things to do. I told Pat that I couldn't find a babysitter for Nicola, and he said, I want you to find one because you're coming with me. We're doing this together. And it's funny, because 9 times out of 10 we can find a babysitter. It's just that we don't want to find a babysitter because we don't want to leave our children. As it so happened on this occasion, my mum said that she would have Nicola. It's so easy for us to make our children our excuse for not building this business. Nicola was, and still is, our reason for building it. Our children should be our reason and not our excuse. But have you ever watched your children, if you have children, when they're small and they're asleep in bed, and how cuddled up they are and how warm they look, and they're so sweet, and they have their whole lives ahead of them. Just think if one day when they grow up, someone shows them this business. Or if they have a friend whose parents became successful in this business, and you say to them, well, we saw that business once, or we were in that business once, and they say, well, why didn't you do it? These people have a wonderful lifestyle. I've just been swimming in their pool. And you say, because we didn't want to leave you with a babysitter. I don't think that would cut the cake, do you? I know it wouldn't have done with Nicola. Our children are the world's future. They will duplicate everything we do. they will also duplicate everything we don't do. It's down to us to set a good example for them to follow. There's no better example than the teachings in this business. People in this business are good people, and what better people for them to associate with? Not long after this, we learned that there was a trip being organised in the USA where we could go along and meet some successful people in the business. We knew we couldn't afford to go, but we worked our way round it. We made some sacrifices and off we went. And it was in the USA that we met our upline for the very first time. We met Fred and Linda, Jerry and Polly, and Bill and Leslie. We could see that they were time and money free. Time, as Nicola indicated, is one of our most precious gifts. Once it's gone, we can never have it back. We realised that they could get up when they wanted to. They didn't need an alarm clock to control their lives, nor did they have a boss. The thing that impressed us most was their incredible attitude to life. We knew that they had total peace of mind. We also saw that they were good, ethical people with an abundance of love to share. We visited their beautiful homes, and their hospitality was second to none. The numbers at the function we attended were huge. It was a weekend function. We learned so much that weekend from the time we spent with our upline. We went along there at the 12% level. Due to the huge numbers, there were equally huge queues. And because we were only at the 12% level, we had to line up with everyone else before we could get in. And if there's one thing that Pat really dislikes, it's having to queue. Had we been 21%, we wouldn't have had to queue and we could have gone straight in. And he said to me, "Greta, no way will we ever queue again." And we never did. He made the decision, and 2 months later, we hit the 21% level. And it was while we were over there that we really got to know our very special friends, Jerry and Mandy Scriven. They were 21% and we were 12%. And I was totally in awe of Mandy. And I thought, oh, I hope she doesn't come and speak to me. I shan't know what to say to her. And, but she did. She did come and speak to me. And thank goodness she did come and speak, because I thought, as you can imagine, that she was great. And I also realised, and Mandy and I know this, she won't mind me saying this, that we are totally opposite. We are total opposites. And Leslie O'Brien says that we're like night and day. And Mandy says I'm the night bit because that's when I come alive. So Mandy's the day bit. But I honestly believe that that is one of the reasons, only one of the reasons, that we have remained such loyal friends. I've learned an awful lot from Mandy. It's a pleasure for us to have them as our true friends and to work alongside them. Being around successful people does something for us. As a result of that trip, our business started to grow. We wanted to help people to become successful. It gives us such pleasure to see people growing in this business and to see their businesses grow. We just cannot put a price on the love and friendship in this business, and particularly the love and the friendship that has been shown to us constantly over the years by our upline in the States. Because they believed in us when there were just a handful of people over here in the UK. And they helped us to believe in ourselves, and in the words of Bill O'Brien, to always keep the faith. By the fine example that they have set for us, we have learned to dream again. And as a result of their continuing love and support, we have seen some of our dreams come true. Not only our own personal dreams, but also the dreams of others. As you know, we now have continuing success in the UK, We have good leaders. We have a strong team. And we are now seeing people go on to reach the diamond and emerald level and being able to give up full-time work. These are the truly satisfying things about this business. Our lives have changed somewhat over the years as a result of being in the business. It's very nice to be able to go on shopping expeditions with Mandy and to be able to buy whatever we like from wherever we like. And I can't even really begin to describe the fun that we have, because it's a giggle from beginning to end, as Mandy will tell you. We usually have an overnight stay in London at a 5-star hotel if we shop in London, and then we take in a West End show. We have a lovely home with some land and a river, which is great for Pat and Mike Beasley to fish in. And I don't think there's really any more need for me to say too much about that, except that Di and I never know if they're coming back the same night from upstream or if we're going to see them a week later. We've got very nice cars now that somehow always want to run away with themselves and go fast. As the officer pointed out to me on the motorway the last time I saw him, I was going a little too fast and had been doing so for the past 20 minutes. And again, it was just Mandy and I together in the car, totally lost in conversation, totally oblivious to the goings-on in the world around us. He kindly pointed out to me the bright orange colours on his car. And he turned on again the blue flashing lights. He also again turned on the siren to indicate the noise that it made. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you mean to tell me that you didn't see or hear us?" And I said, "No, I was chatting to my friend Mandy." And he said, "Well, didn't Mandy see or hear us either?" And I said, "No, because if she had, she would have told me." He mentioned that because we hadn't stopped for 20 minutes, he thought we had stolen the car. And that if we hadn't stopped soon, he was going to set up a roadblock at the next junction. When I returned to my car and relayed the whole story to Mandy, she became equally as excited as I was. And she said, "Quick, Greta, go back, stop him, ask him if we can have a rerun." And you know, I can just imagine Mandy and I get into that roadblock. You know, to get out of the car, look at them and say, "Hey guys, we know you want to see this business, but don't you think this is a bit dramatic?" Anyway, my car has learned its lesson. And it's made a decision to slow down. And so far, so good. We've enjoyed many holidays and trips abroad since being in this business, as a result of being in this business. Some of those trips have been to the USA with your leaders, and what fun it is to go there with all of them, especially on shopping trips, seeing all the ladies try on and buy those beautiful gowns. These are all the fun things, but they're not the most important things. The best part about this business has been the people we have met and the friends we have made. Your leaders in this business are all wonderful people, and we are proud to be associated with them. They're very caring, loving people, and you can rest assured, as my dad used to say, they will always go the extra mile for you. You are all very special people. We thank you for your love and friendship, and we offer our love and friendship to you forever. Here's Pat.
Good. Great. Well, you can tell from what Greta's been telling you, we have a lot of fun with the business now. We have a lot of fun together, and we have a lot of fun jointly with your leaders and people that are, building the business as a team. And I started by saying that's exactly how we've succeeded, by building the business as a team, as a family team and as a business team as well. But that wasn't always how it was. And as I said earlier, it's very humbling for us to be speaking with you today, humbling more so because when we knew we had to speak, we had to sit down and go over the past again and look at our notes and recall from our memory how things were. And that's humbling because it's frightening also, because you realise how things could have been if we hadn't have started this business. So the humbling and the frightening part of the business soon became very, very apparent. Back in those days, we didn't operate as a team, and the team didn't even come into it. I was very much a loner. And I don't want to bore you with too much of our past, but I'd like just to take you back perhaps 3 years before we got into the business, just to explain where I was coming from as a person. As Greta said, I worked in a service industry, and that meant working between 60 and 70 hours every week, and usually working when everyone else played. Job responsibilities were very, very clear. It was a 24-hour operation. It opened 365 days a week. And I was there to be responsible for overseeing many hundreds of staff and department managers. I had to make the place work. We were retailing food, fuel, confectionery and fast food. Profit was king. That was the main area of my responsibility. Standards were queen. In other words, profits and standards were the two main areas, in so much as I had to make sure both were in the right proportion. My priority, as I was clearly told on my interview, was firstly job, secondly family. It demanded and I gave 101%. I was highly motivated to the challenge. I loved the job. As Greta said, you see, we'd come from that background where we'd had a business, and I got back into the commercial world and into employment again, and I couldn't come back in at the level I left, so I had to work my way up. So I was highly motivated to that challenge and got various promotions. I loved the job, busy, busy, busy. No 2 days were the same. I loved the power. I could hire, I could fire. I could make or I could break people. And I strived constantly for that recognition. How many of us do that? Just striving for recognition. And the boss knew how to play me. He was ex-military, he had very high standards, and he insisted that the sites were maintained to very high standards. He carried out inspections when I wasn't there, just to undermine me and to just keep me on my toes. I go home at night and I find later on that he was back on site looking round, talking to staff, asking questions. He kept the pressure on me. He was there sometimes before me in the morning, and some weekends I used to start about 5 o'clock in the morning. He played people games with me. You were never sure whether he was with you or against you. He kept me running here, calling there. I was always constantly kept on my toes, but I was thriving on that sort of pressure. And how he was with me, so I was with other people, because that's what the job demanded. I eventually worked for that company for 10 years, but towards the end, towards the last 3 years, I was given promotion. I was given promotion because obviously things were moving on with that type of business, and he gave me the responsibility of running 3 other sites and gave me a job title. The job title was area manager. The problem was, from the base site that I worked at, the first site that I had to now look after was 130 miles west. The second site was 110 miles east. And the third site was 100 miles north. So he had me running which way but which, everywhere. He knew how to stretch me, and I rose to the occasion. As I say, he gave me a new job title, area manager. He put me on a trial period, 6 months. He gave me a new car. But unfortunately, he couldn't give me any extra money because I had to prove myself over the 6 months. I had to prove I could do it, and I wanted to be best in the company. Looking back, what made me do that? What makes any of us do those sort of things? Pride, is it? Pride, is it ambition? I suppose to me there was an ambition level there. Was it chasing that elusive dream of success? But what was success? I wasn't too sure. If anybody asked me in those days, what do you really want out of life? I don't think I would have told them, apart from some inane response like, to be at the top, whatever the top is. I constantly wanted to please my peers. But what was I going to achieve at the end of the day? Was it just recognition? Was it going to be a decent salary? My salary wasn't too bad, but we certainly didn't have any excess money at the end of the week. What was it that we were going to achieve out of all this? As I say, in those days, I didn't even think about it. I was perhaps a little naive. But there's a lot of us go down this path, but when we ask the question, why are we doing it? What are we going to achieve? The end result is very, very little. By doing this, by stretching and sacrificing and climbing the ladder towards success, I achieved to a degree a certain amount of inward satisfaction, although certainly in the areas at home there was less than satisfaction. I couldn't really see the top rung of that ladder, whatever that ladder of success was. I hoped it was there, and I hoped I'd be rewarded. I knew no different, and I was doing exactly the same as many other people in my field. There were many other managers like me, area managers. And because we were all doing the same thing and operating under the same sort of pressure, we accepted it as normal. We knew of other people in other industrial fields that were working similar sort of jobs to get similar sort of rewards under similar sorts of pressure. So that was the acceptable thing in life. We knew no different. I'd had a very good upbringing, and my father and my mother had always taught me there was nothing to gain out of life unless you were prepared to work for it. And if you had to work, you had to sacrifice things. You had to pay the price. You couldn't move on and live comfortably unless you were prepared to pay that price. So I was just following the same path that most other people follow. So I thought I was operating on the standard path to success. But one person who was less than impressed, need I say, it was Greta. She wasn't afraid to verbalize herself in those days. And I was very respectful of her views to a degree, because I was also very aware of how skilled she had become through the knowledge of the books that she'd been reading on how to deal with me if I didn't agree with her. So my response had to be pretty well standard. That's life, Greta. That's the way things are. That's what's happening to all the other managers. I've got a friend up north, and it's happened to him, and this is what happens to that one.